You know, or maybe you don't, and maybe you do. In the course of one's life, you go into experience. I have experienced many insights, epiphanies, realizations of all kinds, of all sorts. And I have valued them at different levels. And one of these things that I've learned on the way of this so-called spiritual path, you know, there's the economic path, the financial path, the sports path, the mathematical path, the path of least resistance, the wooded path, the seascape path, the spiritual path. Anyway, you get that point. There are many realizations, many little insights. But the one that I want to talk about today is one that can go and carry you a long way. It has carried me a long way. And that's the realization that it all happens here. It all happens here. There is an external world that we deal with, but what we know about that world all happens here and here and other parts of the body. I don't see myself. My mind runs neural circuitries from the eyeball to the back of the head, some occipital part in the brain, and it represents an image. It creates an image inside here somewhere. And then I see you. Oh, actually not you. I see the screen that I'm talking into. But it all happens inside here. The outside world takes care of itself. The external reality, whatever it actually is, takes care of itself. All I ever know about that external reality is what happens in here, somewhere in this body. It all happens in here, looking out. It takes outside, and I have an emotion, I have a feeling, I have a fear, I have a joy, I experience these things. All of this happens in here, in here. Confusion is not out there. Confusion is here. Sorrow is not out there. Sorrow is in here. Indecision, insecurity is in here, not out there. Out there is whatever out there is. It may be a soccer game where people go crazy with fan rabidity, clawing at each other. That's a reality. But how you deal with it, how you see it, what you do, arises in here. It's all in here. The awe that I look at and experience when I see the sunset on a particular day over the ocean or in a mountainscape, that awe is inside here. And when somebody drives their car in front of me really fast and then brakes and I almost hit them, that anger is in here, in here. It's not out there. On the other hand, the exterior world penetrates me. On the subatomic level of the very, very small quantum physics, where everything is made up of atoms and particles that make up the atoms and cells and molecules. So we are interpenetrated. The so-called outer and the so-called inner all interact. All interact. But all, this individual body-mind entity is going to understand is what happens in here. Now, in this world of spiritual seeking, there's a lot of mimicry, a lot of imitating, copying. If I look like Ramana Maharshi, maybe I'll see the world the way he sees it. If I wear robes and chant, maybe I'll see the world differently than how I see it. Maybe I'll see it the way Papa G sees it, or Raja Shanti sees it, or Ganga G, or Jeff Foster, or Bentino Macero, or Douglas Harding, or any number of these people. Eckhart Tolle, my buddy Eckhart Tolle. Maybe I'll see the world the way he sees it. Well, newsflash, the only way you see the world is the way you see the world. No one else sees the world the way you see it. You cannot see the world the way I see it, and I will never see the world the way you see it. Total impossibility. Doesn't mean that there is, other than some existential aloneness, that's a fact of life, there is this communication, there is this oneness. And this oneness that we all are doesn't mean I read your mind and you read my mind. And that if I can't read your mind, I'm not experiencing oneness. We are experiencing oneness, non-duality all the time. But we sometimes get caught up in the language, non-duality. There's no doer, there's no me, it's all an illusion. To the extent that it all is figured out inside this head, yeah, okay, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. But having said that, how are you going to live? The illusion can smack me right in the head with a 2x4 and I'm bleeding. An illusion. The deeper realization is that it all happens in here, somewhere, in here, inside. That is the deeper realization. Then you can spin off from that and talk about, Advaita, non-duality, illusion, reality, for the sake of discussion, for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of having a cup of coffee, a cup of tea with some friends, or not so many friends, arguing, debating, discoursing, having a dialogue, for that sake. But the deeper realization you need to carry away, or not, it's totally up to you. Always is always totally up to you. It's never anybody else's obligation. It's your own obligation to come to your own realizations that it all happens in here. It doesn't feel that way, I know. Sometimes I get so resentful of something, I think it's obvious that something is wrong with you. It's obvious. Look at me. I'm crazy about something, and you're the problem. You've made me feel this way. Now, there is conditioned behavior. This body doesn't evolve over millions of years without having conditioned behaviors built in. Autonomic systems kick in. The blood flowing through the body, the heart beating, the lungs expanding and contracting, all of that happening without your conscious intention. Automatically. And if the body sees something and it goes back to the old lizard part of the brain and says, whoa, that is a threat, you either run, you either fight, or you freeze in action. Maybe it'll go away. So understanding how the body operates is a helpful thing. It's not the whole thing, it's the helpful thing. The deeper realization always is that it happens in here. Now, neuroscience and neuroscientists are like auto mechanics, that they can take a car apart and put it together again, but you don't know or don't need to know how to tune a car up to drive it. You don't know or need to know how the subatomic structure in our body and levels at the very small deal with the macro level that we live in on a daily basis. All you need to know is how you live daily, and how you live daily is dependent on how you think, how you feel, how you interpret what's going on in here. People can act badly, but how you respond is dependent upon what happens in here. The world will always be as it is. The universe always will be as it is. You are always as it is. And part of being as it is how the mind thinks, responds. You go and work inside your head. The storyline, that inner commentary, that sub-vocalization, that self-talk that gets these things going and runs that continual commentary in the head. It's a beautiful day. It's a rainy day. My pets need to be walked. I gotta go shopping. My boss is unhappy. For me, I'm retired, so I don't have a lot of that stress I used to have. You know, the world, the universe, is as it is, and there are never any mistakes in it. No good, no bad, no right, no wrong. All of that stuff is in here from our perspective, from my perspective, from your perspective. And that's all you ever tell me, and that's all I'm ever telling you. I'm telling you now how it is appearing to me. Doesn't mean that's the way it is. And when you talk, you're telling me, hey, Tony, this is how it is from your perspective. And that's all. You're not telling me about the truth of it. This is the truth of how life and your human nature really is. The truth is that you are, and I know this is going to blow your mind, you are formless awareness temporarily manifesting as a human form, awakening to your formless nature through a form. It's all very paradoxical, but that's the truth. That's who you are. Everything you see, everything you look is an illusion created internally. The house you live in, the marriage you live in, the friendships you have, the siblings you have, all illusions. Well, thank you very much for telling me that. Now what? Now you go on doing how you always were doing. Deeper realization that sometimes people call the enlightenment is understanding, clearly, deeply understanding. It all happens in here. What we see of the sun in the sky, what we see in the stars through astrophysicists and telescopes, ultimately is figured out here. What I know of it, what you know of it, happens as a result of what I say here. And what I say may be totally made up. I don't know. You don't know. All I can tell you is how I think, I know, I feel, I smell it, how it all seems to me, how it appears to me. And if you're standing 10 feet away in a corner, I know we look at the same thing, you're going to see it differently simply from that little change in perspective. And this is one of those big ones, I think, shifts in perception for people to understand. When you understand that it all happens here, not in my head, in your head.